Hey guys, hope y'all are doing great. Today I'm going to show you how I created this awesome landscape and turned it into a cinematic masterpiece. It's super easy, trust me. Just follow along and don't forget to put your own spin on it. I promise it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, let's jump right in. All right, first things first. We're going to create a plane. Just hit Shift+A, select plane, and scale it to whatever size works for you. Next, head over to the Modifier tab, choose the Subdivision Surface Modifier, and set it to Simple. Bump up the viewport levels to 6, then press Ctrl+A to apply the modifier. Now let's add some texture. Go to the Texture Properties tab, change the type to Cloud, and boom! You've got a nice bump structure on your plane. You can tweak the size and strength values in the modifier properties to get the look you want. And there you go. We've got a cool bump structure on our plane. See? Easy peasy, right? All right, now let's add a camera to the scene. Press Shift+A, select camera, and place it where you want. Next, hop over to the Camera Properties tab and set the Passepartout to 1. This helps you visualize the scene more clearly. Once that's done, adjust the scene to frame it just right. Now head to the Resolution properties and set the aspect ratio for a cinematic look by changing the Y value to 817. Don't forget to switch the render engine to cycles and set the device to GPU compute for faster rendering. For samples, I like to keep it smart. Use lower samples for the viewport to keep things smooth while working, and higher samples for the final render for that polished look. Just a heads up though, higher samples take more time. Finally, adjust your camera angle to nail that perfect shot, and there you have it. Our scene is starting to come together beautifully. All right, now it's time to sculpt the plane into a beautiful landscape. Don't worry, it's super simple. First, enter Edit mode by pressing the Tab key. Enable proportional editing by hitting the O key, and you're good to go. Start by selecting a point on the plane, then press G to move it. Use Z to move it upwards to create a mountain-like structure. You can scroll up or down to adjust the range of the proportional editing. This controls how far the bumps spread. Once you've got a rough, bumpy shape, switch to Sculpt mode. Choose the smooth brush to refine the bumps and give it a natural, mountain-like look. Take your time with this step. Beautiful creations often take a bit of patience, so don't rush. Sculpt slowly and carefully to get the best results. Remember, the more love and detail you put into it, the more stunning it'll look. Now let's add some life to the hill. You can choose whatever you like, a house, a temple, or something creative. For my scene, I'm going with a monk temple. I grabbed this from Blenderkit, which has tons of free assets you can use. I simply dragged and dropped it onto the top of the hill, aligning it perfectly so it fits seamlessly into the scene without any distractions. Shout out to Blenderkit for making it super easy to find and use free assets. Thank you, Blender. I'll include the link to Blenderkit in the description below so you can check it out yourself. All right, now it's time to animate that camera. I'm keeping things simple, so we'll do a basic zoom into the temple from where we started. First, press I to insert a keyframe at the start of the animation, at frame 1. Then, move the camera to the temple view and press I again to add another keyframe. This will give us a smooth camera transition. If you want, feel free to adjust the camera's rotation too. Now press T and select the linear option. This ensures the camera moves at a consistent speed throughout the animation. Next, let's fine-tune the smoothness. Head over to the graph editor, press A to select all the keyframes, and hit Ctrl+O to smooth out the animation. And boom! Your camera's animation is now smooth and ready to go. Next up, we're diving into weight paint mode. Switch over to that mode and select a brush to get started. Now start painting around the temple and the mountains. Be sure to leave space for the road later on. Once you've marked out the areas, go ahead and paint the rest of the landscape. This will help us add vegetation to the scene. Take your time with this part. Just like with sculpting, beautiful details come when you move slowly and thoughtfully. There's no rush, so enjoy the process. Now it's time to add some beautiful vegetation to really bring the environment to life. I'm using the paid version of the Botaniq Addon, but if you're looking for a free option, Plant Library is a great choice, and it's available in the free version. I added some grass using the Botaniq Addon. It instantly filled the scene with grass, but I wanted to tweak it a bit, so I reduced the size and density. Here's the cool part. I'm linking the density and length to the weight paint properties we set earlier. This means the grass will only appear where we painted, covering those specific areas of the terrain. Simple, right? Now let's add some natural clouds to enhance the realism of the scene. To create the cloud, press Shift+A, select plane, and move it to the background of your scene. Scale it up so it covers the whole angle. Next, head to the shader editor and click New to add a new material. Now press Shift+A again to add a noise texture and a color ramp. Plug these into the alpha input of the principled BSDF. This will create a noise texture on the plane with transparency, giving the cloud a natural, soft appearance. This little touch will really enhance the overall scene. Looks good, right? Next, let's take things up a notch by adding an HDRi to our scene. First, go to the shader editor and switch to world type. Now press Ctrl plus Shift plus T to add a node. Just make sure you've turned on Node Wrangler in the preferences first. Once the node is added, pick your favorite HDRi. These HDRi images have a powerful impact on your scene, adding depth and realistic lighting. Honestly, they cover half of the beauty of the scene. Now play around with the strength and rotation values to fine-tune the effect and get the best results. You'll see the scene really come to life with just a few adjustments. As you can see, the HDRi doesn't fully cover the scene, so I added some manual lighting to enhance the look. I placed a light at the top of the temple and another on the side to make it look like the light's naturally coming from a sunset. It's all about refining the scene until it looks just right. Keep tweaking the lighting and positioning until you're happy with the results. Trust me, you'll know when it feels perfect. Next up, let's add some volumetric fog to make the scene even more stunning. It does take a bit longer to render, but trust me, it'll have a huge impact on the final result. To add the fog, start by adding a cube and scale it up to cover the entire scene. Then go to Object Properties and set the display to bounds or wireframe. This will help visualize the fog area. Now head to the shader editor and add a volumetric fog node to the material output's volume input. Play around with the density and anisotropic values to get that perfect dreamy fog effect. Just remember, a little goes a long way, so fine-tune it until it looks just right. Now let's add some mountains in the background to make the scene even more stunning. I grabbed some from Blenderkit and placed them right behind the temple. Once the mountains are in place, hit F12 to render the image and see how everything looks. Time to check out our first render. Take a moment to evaluate the result. Are you happy with how it's coming together? I think it's looking pretty great, but let's see if we can tweak it even further. Next, let's add some trees around the temple to give the scene a lush, natural vibe. It's super simple. I use the Botaniq Addon to import trees and place them around the temple. You can position them however you like. It does take a bit of time though. But here's a pro tip. Enable Object Scatter in your preferences to speed things up. Once it's activated, select one tree and use the Object Scatter brush to paint trees directly onto the landscape. Adjust the scatter settings to control density, size, and randomness. This way you can add multiple trees at the same time. Saves so much effort, right? Just take your time and have fun placing them. Now let's add a road leading to the top of the mountain and up to the temple. It's super simple. Start by pressing Shift+A and adding a path. Next, go into Edit mode and press A to select all the points on the path. Now head over to the path properties and adjust the extrude value. This will give the path some thickness, turning it into a road. To make the road follow the mountain, tweak the mean tilt value to align it with the terrain. With a few adjustments, you'll have a road snaking up to the temple in no time. Easy, right? Next, let's add even more variety of vegetation around the road, the temple, and wherever else you like. This will give the scene an extra touch of beauty and make it feel even more alive. I use the Botaniq Addon to add different types of plants, trees, and shrubs. Just pick your favorites and place them around. Get creative with it. The extra variety really enhances the overall look and makes the scene pop even more. Take your time and keep tweaking until it feels just right.
Now it's time to take this scene to the next level by animating a vehicle. Adding some motion will give the scene even more life. I imported a realistic vehicle model from Blenderkit. It looks fantastic right out of the box, so all we need to do is rig and animate it. Simply position the vehicle on the road, add a rig to control its movement, and animate it following the path up to the temple. It's a small touch, but it adds so much personality to the scene. Let's bring it to life.
If you click on the wheels, you may notice that all the wheels are joined together. To solve this issue, go to the Modifier properties where you'll see the mirror modifier. Press Alt+A to apply the modifier. Now we need to separate the individual wheels. Select the wheels, enter Edit Mode, and select each individual wheel. Press Ctrl+L to select just one wheel, then press P and choose Selection to separate that wheel from the others. Repeat this process for the remaining 3 wheels. After separating all 4 wheels, name them in the correct order, such as Ben's body and Ben's HDRi. Next, select the body as the main element and set it as the parent for the other objects. So all objects except the wheels will follow the body. Then click on each individual wheel, press Shift+A, and select Set Origin to Geometry. Next, press Shift+S to move the cursor to the selected wheel, and again set the origin to the cursor. This will help rotate the wheels in a circular direction by placing the origin point in the middle. Repeat this step for both the body and the wheels. After that, there is an add-on called Rigacar. I will provide the link in the description. Make sure all objects in the car are named properly. Select all the car objects, press Shift+A, select Deformation, and then choose Car Deformation. Ensure that all the bones are assigned to the car properly. If not, follow the instructions carefully. Finally, click Generate Car Rig, which will help control the car's movement realistically, just like real-world vehicles.
Next, let's animate the car making its way up the hill naturally. To make this easier, you can use the Rigacar add-on. It's great for animating vehicles with realistic motion. But for this video, I went old school and did the animation by hand. It's not perfect, but it gets the job done for now. Simply keyframe the car's position and rotation as it follows the road to the top of the hill. It may not be as smooth as the rigged option, but it's still a great way to add movement and bring the scene to life. Perfect is overrated, right?
Now, let's texture the road to make it blend beautifully with the environment. I grabbed a texture from Blenderkit, just drag and drop it onto the road. Once it's applied, start tweaking the values, like scale and rotation, to make sure it matches the scene perfectly. Keep refining it until it looks natural and seamless with the surrounding environment. It's a small detail, but it makes a big difference. Alright, let's breathe some extra life into the scene by adding living creatures. You can add cows grazing near the temple, butterflies fluttering around, or even birds soaring in the sky. It's totally up to your imagination. I love this step because it's where your creativity really shines. Keep placing and tweaking these little details until the scene feels alive and full of character. Remember, it's your vision, there's no right or wrong here. Keep going until you're fully satisfied with the result.
The final step is to adjust the render settings. Set the render engine to cycles and the device to GPU compute, as I use optics for faster rendering. I set my sample count to 1024, as I want every individual frame to be in PNG format. Don't forget to turn on motion blur and ambient occlusion for the car animation. Motion blur is particularly important for achieving a more realistic effect. After I rendered in Blender, I export to DaVinci Resolve for color grading. Color grading is the process of altering and enhancing the color of a motion picture or still image. It involves adjusting the colors, brightness, and contrast to create a specific aesthetic or mood. The goal of color grading is to give the footage a professional, polished look that supports the storytelling aspect of the project. In my workflow, I use tools like color wheels, curves, and LUTs, lookup tables, to fine-tune the colors. For example, I might use warmer tones to evoke a sense of nostalgia, or cooler tones for a more futuristic or somber atmosphere. Additionally, color grading can be used to establish continuity between shots and enhance the narrative by visually conveying emotions and themes. By carefully manipulating the color palette, I can guide the audience's perception and create a more engaging viewing experience.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it helpful. Since I'm not the best at communication, I chose to use AI for the voiceover. I hope it worked well for you. Your support means a lot, so don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. I'll see you in the next video. Keep creating, and have fun.